Hey everybody, welcome to the Black Hills and Eastern Railroad. Stay tuned for information about how I built my own SW1200 on a shoestring budget. This video is dedicated to the memory of the late Don Nelson. Don Nelson spent at least part of his career on the Burlington Northern Railroad in the Sioux Falls terminal at the throttle of the BN211. I met Don at an operating session one time hosted by his son-in-law, Alan Sotkamp, in Harrisburg, South Dakota. Alan no longer lives in Harrisburg, but the memory of Don's company at that operating session remains a memory in my mind. The Burlington Northern 211 was an EMD SW1200 built for the Northern Pacific as their number 152 in the summer of 1957. Northern Pacific was absorbed into the Burlington Northern on March 1st, 1970 in the Hill Lines merger. BN classified the switcher as an SW12. Photographic evidence that I found suggests that the unit spent its entire NP and BN career within a few hundred miles of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Metro. I don't know exactly how long, but for many years the unit was assigned to Sioux Falls. It has been referred to as their pet switcher, as it never strayed very far from Sioux Falls. The engine even had Sioux Falls stenciled on the side to indicate its home shop assignment. I believe that's the only engine, or at least that's the only engine that I've ever observed with that designation stenciled on it. Other individual road switchers of low horsepower GP types of EMD origin came and went with some degree of regularity, but the 211 stayed around. My dad photographed the 211 in Sioux Falls in the mid-1980s, one day when we were on a quick railfan side trip from our regular errands one Saturday. I would see it in town many other times. I always liked the appearance and functionality of the EMD's SW line. I wanted a 211 of my own. Later in my modeling career, I picked up an Athearn SW7 and painted it myself to represent the BN211, but I was never quite satisfied with the looks or performance of the model. When Proto announced BN SW1200s or so a year or so back, I was excited about the possibility of having a higher quality model of this unit. Various challenges emerged, though, with the Proto model. Chiefly among them, Proto only offered Burlington Northern units with the flex coil trucks underneath. The BN211 rode on AAR-style trucks as built for the NP. The undecorated came with AAR-style trucks, but no rotary beacon, which was a key motivation for me. Proto has developed a 4 LED rotating, simulating rotary beacon, which is very attractive, but does not work well under a Digitrax aftermarket install or a Tsunami 2 aftermarket install. So I ended up deciding to use the much more affordable Proto 2000 SW1200 model. They're commonly available for a very reasonable price on eBay, so I was able to pick one up in the summer of 2021. Of course, it was decorated for another railroad, but I knew that I could strip that from previous experience. So I began by disassembling the model and stripping it at 91% isopropyl alcohol. After a few hours of soaking in the sealed container, the paint was loosened to the point where it could be removed with an old toothbrush. Then I washed and dried the shell. I applied primer from a Rust-Oleum aerosol can. After that, I applied Poly-S acrylic BN green with my airbrush. I masked the green off and painted Poly-S engine black on the balance of the shell. I used a microscale decal set for the white BN lettering, logo, numbering, and various striping elements. Then I turned my attention to the trucks. The Proto 2000 unit comes with the as-built solid bearing journal side frames. I wanted to update the appearance of the model to show how it looked in Sioux Falls in the 1980s with the roller bearings. A tip from the knowledgeable and generous Scott Chatfield on the Model Railroad Hobbyist Forum led me to a deplanes part that represents roller bearing journals. DPH 2006 is the part number for the side frame kit that directly replaces the Proto 2000 side frames. The original intent of this project was to install a Soundtrack sound decoder, but I was unwilling to sacrifice the weight in the frame. So this limited the install to decoder, capacitor, and speaker in the top of the cab. The Proto 2000 features a crude cab interior which I wish to reuse. Due to space constraints, I ended up settling for a Digitrax DH166 silent decoder mounted in the top roof of the cab rather than the sound decoder due to space limitations. I'm sure it's possible to install a Soundtrax decoder, but my patience for the project was waning by then and I wanted to move on to something else. For lights, I used warm 0402 SMD surface mount LEDs in the headlight housings glued to the flat back sides of Details West parts 341, which are enhancement lenses. For the rotary beacon, I chose my standard Miniatronics incandescent 1.5 30 milliamp incandescent bulb, which fits inside the Athearn rotary beacon detail part nicely. I drilled a hole in the top of the cab for the beacon's base. Then I painted the base. A brass Details West firecracker antenna, RA157, represents the radio antenna. At some point, BN or NP added handrails along the outside of the running boards along the long hood in front of the cab. I used the original Proto 2000 handrails supplemented with brass rod supported by Athearn stanchions. It appears that the side handrails used the update reused EMD's original vertical stanchions on the very end, or the end closest to the nose of the engine. But the stanchions they used were a bit taller than the OEM ones, so there is a noticeable slope on the horizontal section of the handrail where between the original EMD SW1200 stanchion and the aftermarket EMD one that was placed on there by NP or BN. Final assembly saw everything come together. I painted some of the decoder wires in the cab black to hide them from view. One of the last things I added was the 3-pane all-weather window from MLE, which I believe is now out of production, on the engineer side of the cab. A very similar part in plastic has now been made available by Athearn. This model has its shortcomings, but I'm happy to have a smooth operating and nice looking model for a fraction of the cost of the Rapido model. Jason Strone and his buddies up at Rapido are doing a smash-up job, and I would have loved to own a Rapido model of this unit, but it just wasn't possible this time, and I'm happy with my end result. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you click subscribe and smash that like button. See you on the next one.